Welcome to Sporting News Audio. My name is David Arnott, talking on the phone with Stan McNeal, who's in Kansas City. Stan, what's some of the interesting stuff that's happened early on this season? Some surprises that you've noticed in Major League Baseball?
Well, coming into this season, it looked like all the playoff contenders from last year, all the teams that reached the playoffs last year, were in pretty good shape and would reach them again, or at least make a run for them again this year. And so far, that's kind of holding to form. I mean, although in kind of probably in unlikely ways, one team that's been a surprise to me is the Minnesota Twins, for example. It's a team that won the Central Division last year and definitely had a good club coming into spring training, but then they lost their closer, Joe Nathan, about halfway through spring training, and everybody just started to write off the Twins. But the Twins have been, one of the best teams in the American League. I believe they're 6-3 at home and 7-3 on the road. Have had a very strong start, and I think that a couple reasons for that. One is Joe Mauer, their MVP catcher, who signs a huge contract during spring training and has been just as advertised, as good as he has always been. And then another guy that is somewhat of a surprise is their lefty starter, Francisco Liriano, a guy who really kind of busted on the scene a few years back, underwent Tommy John surgery and never really regained his form the way he showed, the form that he showed as a rookie until this season. But, their manager, Ron Gardenhire, experienced spring training and said Liriano was pitching well, and he really has so far this season. I think he's emerging as the ace of that staff, which is not bad for a guy who went into spring training having to earn his spot in the rotation.
Now, you mentioned the Twins as a team that's been surprising on the good side. Is there a team that's been surprising on the downside that you've noticed early this year?
The Red Sox certainly have been a disappointment. I mean, they were swept in a 4-game series by Tampa Bay, who has been a little bit better than people expected. And the Red Sox had made a lot of noise in the offseason about focusing on defense and pitching, and it really has not worked out for them that well. One of their big signings was Mike Cameron, the veteran center fielder who has been hurt and has, even when healthy, has kind of struggled adjusting to playing center field in Fenway Park. Adrian Beltre, another Gold Glove type defender at third base, is another guy who's had his trouble here early in the season. And then we see Josh Beckett, their so-called ace, going out and just getting knocked around not once but a couple of times. And you wonder what's going on with the Red Sox, and that's not even getting to the problems they're having with David Ortiz, who seems like he's been on the skids for since this time last year. Although he did have a big second half in '09, but the Red Sox, they can't dig themselves too deep of a hole. I mean, they have so much talent. I'm sure they'll bounce back, but they dig themselves too big of a hole the way the Yankees and the Rays are going. It could be a long summer for Boston.
What about in the National League? Are there any teams or players that have been jumping out at you thus far this season? I know the one guy that has been surprising a lot of people with 7 home runs, I believe, already, is Kelly Johnson of the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that's the guy that the Braves pretty much gave up on because they had Martin Prado to fill in for him, and Johnson has found the desert air to his liking here in the early going. And the Diamondbacks played a lot of home games, and Johnson definitely taken advantage of that.
Well, Stan, thanks for coming on SN Audio with us. Enjoy the game out there in Kansas City.